Okay, introduction. So here he talks about the problems of the current model and why we need a system that he's proposing. So let's go. Commerce on the internet has come to rely almost exclusively on financial institutions serving as a trusted third party or trusted third parties to process electronic payments. What does this line mean? All the online shopping and commerce is dependent on banks and credit cards, and banks and other institutions act as third party, keeping the trust. So everything's dependent on this third party called a bank or a financial institution. Next line. While the system works well enough for most transactions, it still suffers from the inherent weaknesses of the trust-based model. He'll go into what this means in the later lines, but he's saying here is, yeah, it works well enough, but man, is it vulnerable. We trust these third parties, and they get hacked, and we all lose money. So if you think about the hacks that are happening, that happened with Target, for example, where Target lost a ton of customer credit card data that ended up, being sold on the darknets for millions, if not billions of dollars. They've taken a lot of damage, right? So that's one of the problems with having this third-party trust. The second problem he talks about is here, completely non-reversible transactions are not really possible since financial institutions cannot avoid mediating disputes. So he's basically talking about non-reversible services, which basically means, like, say you go and mow somebody's lawn, and you take their credit card, and 2 days later they charge you back. Well, you can't go back to their lawn and unmow it, The service itself is unreversible, all right? And so you just got charged back, and you just got, your hard-earned money taken back from you, And financial institutions come into the picture now, and they're like, we're gonna mediate between you and the person you mowed the lawn for. So another way of saying it is, for merchants, they get charged back, and there's a huge number of chargeback fraud going on. Banks have to come into the picture and mediate all of this, and they too end up losing money. Just the cost of doing business, which doesn't have to be anymore, by the way. And this paper proves why. The cost of mediation increases transaction costs, limiting the minimum practical transaction size and cutting off the possibility actually, for small casual transactions, and there is a broader cost in the loss of ability to make non-reversible payments for non-reversible services. So what he's saying is, man, all these third-party banks mediating the disputes make the transaction costs go up, and this makes it hard to do small but practical transactions like buying art on DeviantArt for, say, 0.0001 cent. And there are more costs and pains for service-oriented businesses who, after performing the service, get scanned by chargeback. So, after you mowed the lawn, you take the person's credit card, and boom, 2 days later, the money is going back to their credit card, and you're a fraud. You never mowed their lawn, or whatever. Or in my case, I built somebody a website, and they just charge me back. Pay my server fees. Okay, all right, enough about that. With the possibility of reversal, the need for trust spreads. So, since the possibility of customers taking money back for services already rendered exist, right, merchants really need to be trusting their customers. So merchants must be wary of their customers, hassling them for more information than they would otherwise need. Of course, you don't just get trust. So in order to gain this trust, or at least in order to sort of shield yourself from any reversible transactions, merchants must know extensively who the customers are. So you have to know who you're dealing with. And to do that, merchants ask for a ton of information that lead to the violation of customer privacy in a way. So they have to hassle their customers to really know what's going on and keep information as sort of a collateral in the event that things go wrong, if you think about it that way. And in thinking about it that way, I tend to think this is sort of a violation of customers' privacy, right? You're asking them for information that you would otherwise not need if you had a better system. These costs and payment uncertainties can be avoided in person by using physical currency, but no mechanism exists to make payments over a communications channel without a trusted third party. So this can all be avoided if you use cash in the physical world, right? But in the virtual world, you can't do that. So we're forced to use third parties/banks as a quick fix to this problem. So let's go back to our mowing the lawn example. In the physical world, you don't have to take credit cards. You can go and be like, hey, I want my cash, and boom, you get your cash. Everything's verified. There's no middleman. You go and you have cash, and he can't take it back. In the physical world, you can do that. In the virtual world, you really can't do that. There are always third parties mediating transactions. You can't do direct transactions, or you couldn't until this beautiful thing came along. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing any two willing parties, to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third parties. So he's saying, what we need? An electronic payment system that's based on deep computer science, mainly cryptography and cryptology. Side note, by the way, this is my side note. Cryptography is about making communication secure, and cryptology is like the math behind the cryptography. We need to use cryptographic proof instead of trust. This will allow people to pay each other directly without the need for a middleman / trusted third parties, i.e. the banks. So Satoshi Nakamoto and this is literally saying we can make the banks basically obsolete. I can tell why he's not very popular with banks. All right. Transactions are computationally impractical to reverse, would protect sellers from fraud, and routine escrow mechanisms could be easily implemented to protect buyers. Transactions which are designed to be non-reversible at the computer and code level, would protect merchants and sellers from chargeback and chargeback fraud. And on top of that, for the buyers, we throw an escrow, which is easy, and that way we can protect the buyers too. So it's a win-win for everyone. In this paper, we propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server to generate computational proof of the chronological order of transactions. Man, that sounds very confusing, but let me break this down for you. He's saying in this paper, we will show you our solution to people copying and pasting digital money, which is also known as double spending, and computers can join the network and using their CPU power, right? CPU is the computer's brain power, basically. They can timestamp and lock the transaction in place in such a way as to form a giant chain that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt the order of which the transactions took place. So that's what he's saying. He's saying we can use computers and this thing called proof of work, which you'll learn about later in the later chapters / sections, not really chapters, to lock the transactions in place and make it sort of permanent, and everybody can see what happened. So yeah. The system is secure as long as the honest nodes collectively control more CPU power than any cooperating group of attackers. So the system is secure as long as the majority of the computers in the system are honest and they control the majority of the power. So all computers have CPUs because it's their brain. It's the thing that processes all the information. So he's saying all the computers in the network don't need to be honest. Just the majority of them need to be honest, and they can sort of be cool, and they can make the longest chain. Okay, this will end introductions, and we're going to go into transactions.